I've managed to grow to over 20k subscribers here on YouTube. So in this video, I'm going to share all the camera equipment that you need in order to get started and to grow quickly. But most importantly, make sure to watch this video all the way through because I go into why sometimes being cheap will kind of hurt your success in the long run. I'll have the links to everything I talked about in the description box down below. I'm going to break everything up into three main categories. The bare minimum budget, meaning under $1,000, the medium size budget, $1,000 to $2,000, and the splurge most expensive budget, $5,000 plus. So starting with the bare minimum budget of under $1,000, I recommend you use whatever you already have. Meaning, I'm pretty sure most of you have a smartphone that has a camera on it. I made an entire video sharing how I can make a high quality, really entertaining, engaging video with just my iPhone. With it, you really need some kind of tripod or something to hold your phone. I really recommend this GorillaPod by Joby. I prefer using this with a phone clamp because it's just really easy to twist and maneuver this so that you can put your phone pretty much anywhere. Compared to lugging around a tripod, it takes forever to set up. They actually sell a vlogger kit that includes a microphone and a light attachment so that you don't need to go out and buy separate microphones specifically for your smartphone. You should get something to record sound. A good option is a lavalier mic. I use the one by Rode, but if you're really cheap, you can actually use the microphone attached to your headphones. It does a pretty good job. And because you don't want to store all your video clips on your phone, you should get yourself a hard drive, at least 1 terabyte. It'll cost you about $50. Optionally, if you want more cinematic footage, you can invest in this DJI OM 5 gimbal. It's only $159. It's definitely a little bit more expensive than the GorillaPod, but this is an amazing little tool that if all you do is film videos on your iPhone, it's going to treat you well. As for editing software, because you are a beginner, I would use whatever you have laying around, whether it's Windows Movie Maker or iMovie, but I do really recommend you download DaVinci Resolve. They have a great free version, and then you can upgrade to the $300 version if you decide you want to step up your game a little bit. With this whole setup, just use whatever laptop or computer you already have. What not to get in this price range is something like this Sony RX100. This is a little point-and-shoot camera that I used to use early on my YouTube journey. I don't know why I did that because my phone camera honestly is better than this camera, and it pretty much costs about the same. I really recommend this setup for anyone just getting started. It won't annoy people with how much of a potato your camera might be, but there is a really big con to this very pared down setup. And this is advice that I wish someone gave me at the very beginning of starting YouTube. The quality of your camera equipment and your gear does kind of matter to a certain extent, because when you are first starting out with 0 subscribers or very, very few subscribers, you have to have really high quality videos in order to get people to subscribe. Because why would someone subscribe to you if you have no followers and you have very low quality videos in terms of the video quality, the sound quality, that kind of thing? Now for the medium budget. This is specifically for people who are serious about YouTube and really want to grow quickly. It's also going to be medium difficulty, meaning this does require a little bit of extra learning in order for you to get good at using this equipment. First up, the camera. I have the Sony a6600. I really recommend this camera instead of anything cheaper because anything that is below $1,000 is kind of not worth it in my opinion, because you do have access to a smartphone that pretty much is a $1,000 camera. I particularly really like this camera because it has no record limit. So I use this camera for the podcast. It also has a flip up screen, so it is perfect for vlogging. I currently have a 16mm Sigma lens on this camera. It can go pretty low in terms of aperture, so you get that nice bokeh. It basically does a really good job if you're filming in very small, tight spaces, so like an apartment, a small bedroom, or something like that. It's a prime lens, which means it doesn't zoom, but that means it can have a lower aperture setting. A lower aperture just means that you can let a lot more light in. The lower the aperture lens, the more expensive it's going to be, but you're not going to regret it because lenses are arguably more important than the camera itself. The next thing I highly highly recommend you get with your vlogging camera if you're going to shoot outdoors, variable ND filters. This is one from Moment. It's a lot cheaper, and this is the Polar Pro Mist ND filter. It's a lot more expensive. You really need this if you're going to shoot outdoors a lot and you want to get that nice bokeh, beautiful cinematic shot. Otherwise, there's no point in having such an expensive camera and expensive lens if you can't even use it all the way stopped down with ND filters. You are for sure going to need a bunch of different SD cards. I really recommend this Extreme 256 gig SD card. I found that when I would use the 128 gig, it wasn't enough for when I was filming a lot. I recommend any Manfrotto brand tripod. It's really sturdy, it'll last the test of time, it won't break very easily. And I also have the tripod I am currently filming on right now. That tripod is a Vanguard tripod. This tripod is really sturdy, but it's starting to show its age a little bit. I really wish I had spent the extra $100 and got the high-end Manfrotto tripod instead, because you really do get what you pay for with camera equipment. For microphone, I use the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus. I really like it because you can charge it with a USB cable. I used to use this Rode mic, and it's not that great because it requires a D battery. Who has a D battery? And the battery doesn't last very long. Versus the Plus version, not only can you adjust the settings, the charge lasts for so many hours. I can't tell you the last time I actually charged this microphone. In this tier, I do recommend you get Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro, whichever suits your fancy. You do need to step up your game and start learning these higher end, more professional software. For lighting, I recommend the Umbrella lighting kits because you get really soft, smooth light. It's really flattering on the skin and on any subject. I used to use this light in my older videos, and it's not great. It's not very flattering because it's in a box square format. It creates a really harsh light on your skin. It's great for if you want to light the space and that kind of thing, but it's not great for when you're doing talking heads like this. And since you're going to be recording a lot of YouTube videos, you're going to need extra batteries. I made the mistake of buying off-brand batteries. It lasts basically half or less of the amount of time. It'll save you a lot more time and money in the long run to just buy the more expensive Sony brand battery. For efficiency's sake, I also recommend getting a battery adapter. It means I can just plug in my camera to an outlet and never have to worry about my battery dying on me. And you guys, just buy this. I spent so much time not buying a gray card because I thought it was so silly that I should buy a gray card when I can just have a gray piece of paper or something. But this has saved me so much time and heartache. And this handy dandy remote control, it can take photos on self-timer or hit the record button without me having to adjust all the settings over there. What not to spend your money on with this setup is really cheap lenses. This is a 55 to 210 zoom lens, so it can get really close to you, but the aperture is 4.5 to 6.3. You're not getting all that much bokeh with this lens. Avoid cheap lenses at all costs. I would also avoid those cheap LED lights. I have newer ones at my drawing desk. Those type of lights are really not flattering at all. I also don't recommend you get any type of cheap gimbal or slider. This is a manual gimbal. Look how ancient it is. It just doesn't work. I also have this slider. It's going to be pretty useless if you're trying to film yourself with this. I really wish I got the one that has a motor to do this by itself. With this medium budget setup, you are not going to be held back at all by the quality of your videos. At this point, it's up to you to make a good video and you will guarantee to grow. The reason why I wouldn't recommend this for beginners is because there is quite the learning curve in order to use this. There is one major con with this setup. It's not quite as cinematic as some of the top creators here on YouTube. If you want to make music videos, short films, really cinematic travel vlogs, this will not be enough. That brings me to the splurge budget. Starting with the camera first, I am currently using the Sony a7R III. I would recommend you buy the most up-to-date version, the Sony a7R IV. It has no record limit, just like this camera. With a higher-end camera, you are going to need higher-end accessories. That includes lenses. The lens I absolutely love for everything is the Sony FE 1.8 35mm prime lens. I also have the Sony FE 1.8 55 35mm prime lens. I like this to get really close-up shots. The lens I currently have on my camera right now is a 15 to 35mm zoom Zeiss lens. I really wish I got the 2.8 G Master lens. I think it goes from 24 to 75mm. Again, you get what you pay for, because this lens only stops down to 4. It doesn't have all that much bokeh. You're also going to need a lot of doohickeys to get the different type of camera movements that you will get in a music video or film. I have the Zhiyun Weibo S gimbal. It is basically what we use to shoot my music video. It is 100% necessary in order to get really cinematic, smooth footage. If you're going to film outside a lot, let's say you're doing a lot of travel vlog, you're going to need a good monitor. I recommend the Atmos Shinobi 5-inch monitor. I also have the Feel World 7-inch monitor, and it's kind of overkill. You don't need 7 inches. That's what she said. But seriously, it gets really heavy when you're carrying this whole thing plus the camera on this thing, and you cannot leave out the drone. This is the Mavic Air 2 drone that I bought recently and learned how to fly. Your travel videos really need those really big, expansive, beautiful, wide shots. As for lights, hold on, let me get you my light. I use this Godok 60-watt light. It has served me very well, but it is not bright enough for a lot of filmmaking purposes. I wish I had the 120 watt, but that is $500 something, and you cannot forget the computer hardware of choice. I really recommend, if you're going to take YouTube very seriously, to get yourself a nice laptop or desktop, preferably a laptop so you can edit anywhere on the go. This is the MacBook Pro 16-inch M1 Max laptop. I love this thing. It edits like a dream. The fan never kicks on. I've been editing all my videos on my old Mac desktop computer from 2014, 2015. That thing has been through art school, has been through Disney, my entire animation career. It does not want to edit video anymore. It just craps out and dies. I finally caved and got myself this laptop. Editing takes me half the amount of time these days. But also get yourself an SSD hard drive. This is a Samsung 1TB version. I used to edit on a normal hard drive, never again, because it's way too slow. This Splurge Budget is more for yourself as a filmmaker and less about growing at a certain point. There is a diminishing return when you start spending thousands and thousands of dollars on equipment that you don't necessarily need just to make YouTube videos. It means you are investing in yourself. Learn how to use gimbals and lenses and filters and lights and all these things. What I really don't recommend is buying cinema cameras, because there are rental houses and something like ShareGrid, which is an app where you can connect with other filmmakers and rent their cinema cameras. Because most of the time, unless you are a working filmmaker making music videos and short films constantly, you do not need to bring a cinema camera with you to the beach or something. But when you do need one, you can easily rent one. Now that you have all your new YouTube film camera equipment, time to watch this video next to learn how to actually make the videos people want to click on, and more importantly, how to make them watch all the way through.